We have a Grand Design Imagine travel trailer. When setting up the RV or looking for something in the pantry, that area is very dark. Also, the large cabinet to the left of the door as you exit is also dark. I wanted to add some strip LEDs that would light this area up when needed. These will be working lights, which I want more of a brighter white. These are not ambiance lights, since the cabinet doors will be closed most of the time. I also wanted to add a permanent USB power outlet to the large cabinet area so we can charge our bike helmets, which we keep in there. The bike helmets need charging because they have Bluetooth, which allows us to talk to each other while riding. I found this product on Amazon. It has a switch, which will be used to turn the cabinet lights on and off. It has two USB chargers, which will be used to charge the helmets, and it has a 12-volt cigarette lighter style outlet, which I might find a use for in the future. This will be mounted just inside the cabinet by the door. First, I had to figure out what terminals are what. It has 3 terminals, one for power, one for ground, and one for the switched power. It has both a power and a ground because it has an LED that illuminates on the switch when it's turned on. For past projects, I took an old desktop PC power supply and drilled holes for power and ground terminal connections. This gave me a nice source of 12, 5, and 3.3 volts for any electronic projects I am doing at my bench. I used the 12 volts from this power supply along with my voltmeter to figure out the terminals of the switch. Another bonus feature of this Amazon device can be seen if I hook the USB section to my workbench test power. You can see in between the USB plugs there's a digital voltage readout. This will be useful to watch the 12-volt power system in your RV, which could be the battery if you are boondocking, or the transformer or solar charging the battery when connected to some sort of external power. Next, I wanted to drill some holes in the RV cabinet wall where I plan to mount the switch and the USB power device. I found a drill bit that was the proper size that matched the round inserts. These packs of various large-sized drill bits are great. I made a few test holes in a scrap piece of wood just to verify everything fit as expected. After I was satisfied, it was off to drilling the real thing. First, I had to remove the control center panel because that is where the back of the switch device will go. Before removing this control panel, it's a good idea to shut off the hot water heater circuit breaker. I do not want to accidentally flip the hot water heater electric on switch with no water in the tank. I usually just leave this circuit breaker off whenever I'm not camping to prevent accidental on switching. I first remove the border by gently popping off the snaps with my finger. That revealed the screws. Note, these, like all screws in the RV, are square head screws. You can find this square head driver in those packs of driver sets that are very common at hardware stores. When I camp in the RV, I keep one interchangeable screwdriver with the most common used bits, which, for me, are an Allen driver for my awning, a metric Allen for my bicycle mirrors, the square RV head, and a flathead driver. Using my square head screwdriver, I remove the control center panel to reveal a mess of wires. Also, this is where the back side of the switch and power outlets will be located after drilling. I put in a scrap piece of wood to protect any wires from the drilling. I then marked and drilled the holes. The last hole was off just slightly due to the tight quarters of the cabinet, but fortunately the switch device had a little play, so the holes did not have to be perfect. I cleaned up the mess and mounted the switch device. The LED strips I'm going to use are leftover from a previous project I did in our home kitchen. These strips were found on Amazon and are called tunable whites, meaning rather than colors like red, green, blue, you adjust the warmth of the LEDs. These are great if you only want to add cabinet lights and do not want crazy colors. Also, you can use this as is from Amazon if you do not want to integrate with a custom switch like I did in the first part of this video. I will be supplying the strips my own power and will not be using the power supply or controller provided by the kit from Amazon. Like most LED strips, these have sections you can cut the strip. I will be customizing the length of each shelf under my cabinets. Each cuttable segment in these strips are 4 inches long. For the top shelf with the glass door, I will use 2 segments of LED lights. For the middle 2 shelves, I will use 5 segments. For the bottom shelf, which in my RV is split by an inner wall, I will use 2 separate segment groups, each at 2 segments. For the side cabinet by the front door, I will use 6 segments. Once you cut a segment, there's a product that can join segments back together with a wire in between. Basically, it makes a wire turn into a strip as shown here. I created a wiring harness that brought wires out from my switch to each set of shelf lights. I thought it was easier to run individual wires to each shelf from the switch as shown here, but daisy-chaining the light segments together like this for each row of shelves could work too, depending on your shelf setup. I made my wire groups using heat shrink tubing with solder already in the middle. I just had to heat it up enough for the solder to melt to join the wires inside together. I then used my multimeter to run a continuity test on all my wires to make sure they were all connected properly. I do not want any surprises after I install this. I connected power to my USB plugs and ran my wire harnesses to my switch. I wired the LEDs in the front door cabinet by inserting the wires into the clip while making sure the red wire is always connected to the 12-volt label on the LED strips, then pushing down firmly to make the connection. These clips have sharp pins inside that break the wire shield when pressed. The cabinet LEDs are now ready to be mounted. I snaked the rest of the wires down my shelves. The wires look like a bit of a mess and will definitely get a haircut once I know the exact lengths of each. I trimmed the first wire for the top shelf and connected the LED strips using a wire to LED clip. I then removed the backing tape cover behind the LED light strips and stuck them against the back side of the front lip where the door closes so the lights are pointing into the shelves. I tested this first set of lights out and it looks good. I snaked the rest of the wires down the sides of the shelves. On the first shelf, I had to drill a small hole for the wires to pass from shelf to shelf. I held the wires in place with a zip tie where I stapled the zip tie part not across the wires directly. On the lower shelves, I was able to just push the wires through some existing shelf gaps on the sides without any drilling. I wired and stuck the LEDs to the rest of the shelves just like my first. The bottom shelf had a wall in between the sections, so I split that section into two parts separated by those clips and a wire. Now let's see these new lights in action. Drum roll, please. As I mentioned, these are not ambiance or decorative lights. They are working lights when we are setting up the RV or looking for something, so we want them real bright. They will not be on very often, so we're okay with a switch being inside the cabinet. Even the cabinet area is so much brighter with this little upgrade. As a bonus, since I had the control panel taken apart, I have always wanted some indication that our awning light is on. At night, once we close the door window shades, we cannot see if we left the awning light on. One time we accidentally left it on all night and probably annoyed the neighbors who were camping next door to us. I ordered a bag of blue LEDs with mounting housings, which I attached to the awning dimmer I previously installed. The blue LED was just too bright as is, so I added a resistor. It actually took a few tries with several different increasing resistor values to get the right bright level. I drilled a hole in our blank awning 2 switch location and screwed the LED housing in there. Now, when the awning lights are left on, the blue indicator inside will also be on. This blue indicator matches the blue switch that goes with another upgrade I did a while ago. I snaked some wires from the control panel from this switch to an LED spotlight on the back of the RV. This is useful for lighting up the back area when locking things up or cooking in that back area at night. I hope this video gives you some ideas on adding shelf lights to your RV. Thanks for watching.